So we are going to understand what is auto wiring and why we need to go for auto wiring. Auto wiring is the process of to perform dependency injection. This is a process to perform dependency injection. This auto wiring we can perform at a variable level, which is called as field injection. Okay, and we can perform this at the setter method level, which is called as setter injection. Okay, and we can perform auto wiring at the constructor level also, which is called as constructor injection. Okay, so fine. Field injection, setter injection, and constructor injection. At 3 places, we can perform this auto wiring concept. So if you use auto wired annotation like this, for example, I'm going to take one variable, private user DAO variable is available. If you use this annotation at the variable level, then it is called as variable injection, or we can call as a field injection. How IOC container will perform this field injection? IOC container is going to use reflection API internally when you are going to perform field injection. So can we access private variables outside of the class? Yes, we can access private variables outside of the class also. How to access private variables outside of the class? By using reflection API. Okay, good. Next one. So instead of using this at the variable level, we can write one method, public void set to DAO. Okay, I'm going to take user DAO as a parameter, and inside this setter method, we can write this dot DAO is equal to DAO. So what is the purpose of this setter method? What is the purpose of this setter method? 1 minute, guys. So I'm writing one variable. For the variable, I'm writing one setter method. On top of the setter method, I'm going to write one annotation called @auto void annotation. Then it is going to perform setter injection. If you write the annotation at the variable level, IOC container will use reflection API in order to perform dependency injection. If you use this annotation at the setter method level, IOC container will use this setter method to perform the dependency injection. Instead of that, for example, if I have a class that is public user service. So public user service class is there. For that class, we are taking a constructor. So this is a constructor, no return type. Inside the constructor, this dot DAO is equal to DAO. So when you have a constructor to perform the dependency injection, then we can use that annotation at the constructor level. So if you use auto void at the constructor level, IOC container will use the constructor to perform the dependency injection. If you use auto void annotation, guys, online students, is my voice audible for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is it clear? I'm facing some mic issue. I connected with my mobile audio to me.
Audible, sir.
Okay, right?
Yeah, audible, but it is not clear as that regular classes.
Now, so we are having auto void annotation, user DAO, variable level, auto void annotation at the setter method level, auto void annotation at the constructor level. If you use at the constructor level, IOC container will call the constructor to inject the dependent object. If you use at the setter method level, IOC container will call the setter method to perform the dependency injection. If you use at the field level, IOC container will use reflection API in order to perform dependency injection. Okay, so let me download the guys. I think this is a new system. I'm facing a lot of issues today. So let me go and download STS tools, guys. STS download for Windows. STS tools download, Spring tool suite, for Eclipse. Okay, we are going to download for today is not good, sir. Yeah, so I'm downloading my IDE. So it will be downloaded as a jar file. That jar file we need to execute, then we are going to get that IDE. Okay. So is there any jar already downloaded for that? No, I don't. Yeah. Toolsuite 4.0 jar is already there. Okay. So new jar file I'm downloading. So with that jar file, I will set up my IDE. Jar is downloaded. Let me take that jar file. Okay, desktop. I will keep some softwares here. Jar file. How to work with this jar file, guys? Java space hyphen jar space jar file. It will extract the jar file. Then we are going to get the STS IDE. In that STS IDE, we can create our Spring Boot application. Yeah, IDE is extracting. I want to develop the application with the setter injection and constructor injection. Then we will understand which one is better. We need to compare whether setter is better or constructor is better, field injection is better. Most of the people will use the field injection in the projects, guys, but it is not recommended because internally it will use the reflection API. It is going to access our private variables outside of that class. All right. So I think my IDE is almost ready. Got it. Let me go here. STS. Double click on this exe file. We got the IDE. Then let me create one workspace folder. Our SBMS workspace. System also enjoying the weekend. Fine. So we got the IDE. Now let me create one boot application, file, new, start a project. So I think this is our 6th application or 5th application.
5, sir. 5.
Yeah. Zero 06 auto wiring application I'm creating. Build tool we are selecting as Maven, jar file, group ID. You can give any company name and package name. By default, it will go with pom.example.demo as a base package. I'm changing that base package. Next, dependencies, I'm not selecting anything. Click on finish. So with this, our project is getting created. Start class will be created. That start class will contain main method. Inside the main method, we will be having the run method. That run method will take care of our boot application execution. It will start with the IOC container. IOC container will load the Spring Bean classes available in the project, and it is going to create the object for those classes, and it is going to perform dependency injection also. So this is our start class. Let me run this start class, run as boot application. Right. Start class is running, that's fine. Application is executing. Let me create some Spring Beans available here. I'm going to create one DAO class, so which is our user DAO. I want to represent this user DAO as a Spring Bean. For that, we are going to write one annotation called @component annotation. Then we can write one method inside that. That method I want to call from service method. Service method will call our DAO method. So I'm writing simple one method public
We're getting some
string
background noise.
find
Can you
name
mute all of
by ID.
Sir, can you
The
mute all of them?
integer
Like we are
ID
getting
I'm
background
taking.
noise.
So if
Sir,
integer is
the
equal
matter
to
which is
if ID is equal to 1,
background
then
noise.
let me return some name as Samraj.
Ashish
And
and Prapti, please go on
if
mute if
ID
you're
equal to
not on mute.
2, then I will return some name Samraj. Right. Else
Hello,
I'm going to say
could you
that
please
it is
mute yourself?
invalid ID. Return, I'm giving some message which is called as invalid ID. Perfect. Okay. Then this is our class, user DAO class. Let us write a constructor to understand when the object got created. System.out.println, I will say that this is user DAO construct. User DAO constructor getting executed. Then let me create my target class, new
Oma,
class, dot
Oma,
service.
একটা দাও না গো, এই যে টুল এটা রাখবো বাবা।
Service class I'm going to
দাও না।
name. So in this dot service class, I'm going to yeah. So is my voice audible now? Yes. So I'm writing one constructor called user service class. In the user service class, I'm taking a constructor and I'm going to take one variable for the user DAO, that is private user DAO. DAO variable I'm taking, import that package. Then let me write one method, public void get name method, which is having parameter ID. Then DAO dot find name by ID. We are taking the ID here. It is returning the name for us. Whatever the name we are getting, system.out.println name by ID. Right, fine. So with this, our service class is ready and our DAO class is ready. My service class is trying to call the DAO method. My service class method is trying to call the DAO method. But am I injecting the DAO object in the service? No, I'm not injecting. So let me write one setter method also for the DAO variable. Instead of writing the setter method manually, can we generate that? Alt Shift SR, select the setter, generate. So with this one, setter method is available. One zero param constructor is also available. So this is set to DAO method. Set to DAO method got called. Now I have variable, I have constructor. My constructor is a zero param constructor, and I am having a setter method also. Now let me go to start class. Let me get the object of IOC container. How to get the object of IOC? Configurable application context object. So with this I got my IOC. From this IOC container, I want to get the bean object. First let me run this as a boot application. So Spring Bean classes are loaded. DAO constructor is executed. Service constructor also executed. Now let me go and execute context dot get bean method, get our target object, which is service class. Service object I'm storing into a variable. Now service bean dot get name method I'm calling by passing ID as a 1. What is the output we are going to get? Null pointer, because DAO method I am calling. but DAO object is injected, DAO object is not injected, DAO object is not injected. So we are going to get the null pointer exception. Run as boot application. So when I run this as boot application, for these classes objects are created, but I'm getting the null pointer exception. If you don't want to get the null pointer exception, then you need to tell the IOC container to perform dependency injection. How many ways? 3. Setter, constructor, field. So if I use auto-void annotation at the variable level, if I use auto-void annotation at the variable level, then it is going to perform field injection. So this is setter method will not be called. Constructor will be called or will not be called? Will be called. Why this constructor will be called? To create the object for the target class. Target class is also a Spring Boot. For target class object should be created. To create the object for the target class, the container will call. But the dependency injection will happen through variable because auto-void annotation is available at the variable level. Now application I am running, run as boot application. Now you can see that we are getting the name as Raju. That means our service method is able to communicate with the DAO method. Service object injects, DAO object injected into service object through this variable. Now I don't want to go for variable injection. I want to go for setter injection. I want to tell to IOC container to inject a dependent object into target object by calling setter method. Then you can go for auto-void annotation at the setter method level. If you write auto-void annotation at the setter method level, IOC container will create the target class object by using 0-param constructor, and IOC container will call this setter method to inject a dependent object into target object. So if this statement is printed on the console, then we can say that setter method is executed as expected. Go to application.java, run as boot application, run as boot application. Can you see that set to DAO method is called? So that means can I say setter injection is performed? Yes, IOC container is using setter method to inject a dependent object into target object. So you can write this annotation at the variable level. You can write this annotation at the setter method level. Now I don't want the setter. I want to go for constructor. I want to go for constructor. Already we have one constructor. But can IOC perform dependency injection with this constructor? No. Because what is this constructor? 0-param constructor. So now, if you want to perform constructor injection, your constructor should take a parameter to initialize the variable. So let me write a constructor public user service, which is expecting user DAO object as a parameter. That DAO we are going to inject here. This dot DAO is equal to DAO. This dot DAO is equal to DAO. Now I will say that user service 0-param constructor, user service param constructor. User service parameterized constructor, and it is no param constructor. Okay, 2 constructors are available. Whenever we run the application, user service is a Spring Boot. For user service, object should be created because it is a component. So there are 2 constructors available. IOC will use which constructor to create the object now? By default. Understand my question. I have one class called user service. User service is a normal Java class. User service is a Spring Boot. How to represent this class as a Spring Boot? By using component annotation. Okay. Now, so when you use component annotation, IOC container should create the object for your class. Okay. So to create the object for a class, IOC container will use a constructor. Right? How many constructors available? 2 constructors available. One is zero param constructor. Another one is parameterized constructor. When you have a Spring Bean, by default, IOC container will use zero param constructor to create the object. Okay, here if zero param constructor is used to create the object, auto wiring will happen, auto wiring will not happen, auto wiring will not happen. Check this. Run the application, run as boot application. Check the console. Which constructor is executed now? No parameterized constructor got executed. In the no parameterized constructor, dependency injection is not happening. So DAO object is a null value. The null value we are calling the method which is going to give the null pointer exception. Now, I should tell to IOC container, boss, you don't use this constructor to create the object. You use this constructor to create the object. Then dependency injection also will be complete. Then you need to write this annotation at the constructor level. You need to write the annotation at the constructor level. If you write the annotation at the constructor level, then it is called constructor injection. IOC container will perform that constructor injection. It will create the object for the service class by using parameterized constructor, and it will inject a dependent object into target object. So by default, it is going to call zero param constructor. But I want to call parameterized constructor. So when you want to perform constructor injection, then you have two constructors. One is zero param, another one is parameterized constructor. For the zero param constructor, there is no dependency injection. So now I want to call this constructor to create the object. For that, I am writing auto-wide annotation at the constructor level. Is this clear for all of you? Now, application.java run as boot application. Run as boot application. Now, can you see which constructor is executed? Parameterized constructor got executed because we are specifying auto-wide annotation at the parameter level. We are specifying auto-wide annotation at the parameter level. Okay, good. So with this we understood what is field injection, what is setter injection, what is constructor injection. Are you clear? Good. Now let's understand a scenario. In my application, in my program, I am removing zero param constructor. Which constructor is available now? Only parameter constructor. One parameter constructor is available. So when you have only one parameter constructor, writing auto-wide is optional. When you have two constructors, IOC will always take the choice of zero param constructor to create the object. But if you want to call the parameterized constructor to create the object, you need to write that annotation at the constructor level. But now I am removing zero param constructor. My class is having only parameterized constructor. My class is having only parameterized constructor. Our class is just Spring Bean. IOC container should create the object. How many constructors available? Only one constructor. So IOC container should call the same constructor to create the object. In this scenario, writing this annotation is optional. When your class is having only one parameterized constructor, writing auto-wide annotation is optional. Why? Because my class is a Spring Bean. IOC container should create the object. To create the object, constructor should be called. There is only one constructor available. If you write auto-wide or if you don't write auto-wide, IOC will call the constructor to create the object. If IOC calling the constructor to create the object, it will take the DAO as a parameter. That DAO we are initializing to our current class variable. Are you clear with my point? Now check this program, application.java, run as boot application. Run as boot application. Fine. Which constructor it is using now? Parameter constructor. Am I writing auto-wide annotation or I am not writing auto-wide annotation? I am not writing auto-wide annotation. Why? Why it is optional here? Why it is optional here? there is only one parameter as the constructor is available. That's why auto wiring annotation is optional. But if I have two constructors, then definitely you need to specify auto wide the parameter constructor. Then only IOC will use that. Otherwise, IOC will go with the default constructor. Are you clear with my point? Any confusion? No. Very good. So with this we understood what is auto wiring and what is the purpose of auto wiring. Can anyone tell me what is auto wiring? What is the purpose of auto wiring? What is auto wiring? What is the purpose of auto wiring? Injecting the dependent object into target object is called auto wiring. That is used to perform dependency injection. It is used to perform dependency injection. That a dependency injection we can do in three ways, guys. One is setter injection, constructor injection, field injection. So auto-wide annotation, if you use at the constructor level, that is called constructor injection. But writing this annotation at the constructor, see here already we are getting the warning. What they are saying? Remove unnecessary auto wide. Why they are saying that it is unnecessary? Because you already have only one constructor. Definitely, I was if you call the same constructor to create the object. You don't need to write it. You don't need to write it. Okay. So if you have multiple constructors, then you have to specify that annotation. Now, if you use auto-wide annotation at the constructor level, that is called constructor injection. If you use at the setter method level, that is called setter injection. IOC will call this method to perform the dependency injection. So if you use at the variable level, IOC will call reflection API to perform the field injection. Are you guys able to follow this? Yes, perfect. Next one. Guys, see here if you observe, in our development, we are at the beginning level. So still we are learning fundamental concepts of the Spring Boot. We are learning these are actually we should not call it as a Spring Boot. What we are learning? Spring Boot core concepts we are learning. Okay, so we are not doing the actual Spring Boot development. This component scannings, this Spring Boot classes, auto wiring, dependency injection, IOC container, these all are fundamental concepts of the Spring Boot. This is called as a Spring Core. So with these concepts, we need to learn the boot development. We need to develop the application by using Spring Boot. To develop the application by using Spring Boot, these are fundamental concepts are required. Okay, still fundamentals are not complete. We understood what is IOC, what is a dependency injection, what is a beat scope, what is auto wiring, and how to represent the class as a Spring Boot. Now here, whenever we are developing the applications, what we are doing is we are taking one Java class, okay, user service class I'm taking, and I'm taking user DAO class. User DAO class is available, which is one Spring Boot, and user service is available, which is another Spring Boot. User DAO, user service. This DAO object we are injecting into service object. So this is called as dependency injection. We can call it as a dependency injection. Why we are doing this dependency injection? So that my service class can call the DAO methods. Call the methods. Okay. One class is talking to another class. So dependency injection we are doing, and we are calling the methods of the dependent. Service is our target. Service depends on the DAO. DAO object we are injecting on the service. Service is calling the DAO method. But in the real time, we should not do like this. In the real time, we should not do like this. Why? Because one Java class is directly communicating with the another Java class. One Java class is directly communicating with the another Java class. For example, tomorrow somebody will go to the DAO class. They will change the DAO parameter They will change the DAO parameter. If you change the DAO parameter, what is happening now? Service class is affecting or service class is not affecting? Because service class method is calling our DAO class method. Service class method is calling the DAO class method. So in the project, multiple developers will be available, multiple team members available. So one person, according to his requirement, is going to the DAO class method. He changed the signature of the method. Method return type he modified, method parameters also he modified. So if we modify DAO method parameters, it will affect on the service method. Okay, so if somebody modify the DAO method signature, it will affect on our service method. So that's why we are not supposed to call one class method in the another class method directly. If you call one class method directly in the another class, then these classes are called as tightly coupled classes. What is this, guys? These classes are called as tightly coupled classes. What is the meaning of tightly coupled classes? If you modify one class method, which is if you modify one class method, it is affecting on the another class method. So in the project, multiple classes will be available. Whatever the DAO method you are writing, that the DAO method used by 20 classes in the project. If you go and change your DAO method, then what will happen? Other classes will be affected. So we should not develop our classes with the tightly coupling. Okay, so we are understanding the fundamentals. That's why we are not following best practices now, because we need to concentrate on the concept first. What is IOC? What is the DI? What is setter? What is constructor? What is field? What is the scope? What is bean? All that stuff. So we are able to understand fundamentals of the core module: IOC container, dependency injection, spring bean, auto wiring, bean scope, start class, run method, configuration, bean annotation, compose. Now let's understand some best practices that we need to follow when we are working in the real-time project. Okay. So currently, my service class is directly talking to DAO class. Go and wash your face. Now, last 15 minutes, you are struggling to control your sleep. Stand up. So user service class is available. User DAO class is available. Service class is talking to DAO directly. If one class is talking to another class directly, they are called as tightly coupled classes. They are called as tightly coupled classes. It is not recommended to develop our classes with the tightly coupled. Okay. So if you change some functionality in one class, then it is going to affect on the another class. So what we need to do as a programmer, we need to develop our classes into loosely coupling. That means one Java class should not communicate with the another Java class directly. So we need to make our classes loosely coupled. To make our classes loosely coupled, we are going to use interfaces. What we need to do, guys? We need to use interface concept. So currently, what I have implemented, my service class directly talking to the DAO. My service is directly talking to the DAO. That's why I'm saying they are tightly coupled. But in the real time, how we are going to develop the classes? In the real project implementation, first we are going to create user DAO as an interface. We are going to create user DAO as an interface. In that interface, we will write the methods. What methods we want? Find name method is available. We are going to write the method in the interface. For that method, we are going to provide implementation. User DAO interface is available. For that, we are going to write user DAO IMPL. One Java class is going to implement one interface. Interface we are using to write the abstract methods. Up to 1.7, only abstract methods you can write. From 1.8, you can write the static methods and default methods also. But forget about those concepts now. I'm going to create one interface. Inside the interface, I'm writing an abstract method. That interface I'm implementing by using DAO IMPL. Now, my user service will be available. User service is available. This is my target. My user service want to talk to DAO method. My user service want to talk to DAO method. Inside the user service, we will call get name method. Okay. Inside the user service, I'm writing the get name method. My get name method should call the find name method. So earlier what we have done, my service is directly talking to the DAO class. They are tightly coupled. Now I want to achieve loosely coupling. To achieve the loosely coupling, my user service should not talk to the IMPL directly. This is not recommended. It is not recommended. But Java class, if it is directly talking to another Java class, those classes are tightly coupled. Always we need to achieve loosely coupling. To achieve the loosely coupling, here my user service class will talk to user DAO. User service will talk to user DAO. When I am doing the dependency injection also, I will take the user DAO variable, not the IMPL variable. I'm going to take the user DAO variable. So if you develop your application like this, then those classes are loosely coupled. My service class talking to DAO not directly. My service class talking to DAO by using interface as a mediator. So if you use that interface, then what is the advantage? What is the advantage? Our class is not talking to the DAO implementation directly. My class is talking to interface. Through interface is communicating with the IMPL. Tomorrow, if not this IMPL, I can go with the other IMPL also. One interface can have multiple implementation classes. So my service class can talk to any implementation available for the DAO. Okay, any implementation available for the DAO. So with this, we are going to achieve loosely coupling. Which is we can achieve loosely coupling. Can we change our project according to this diagram now? Yes. So our project is directly having user service is talking to user DAO. Now I'm going to create one. I will make user DAO as a. I'm going to make user DAO as a interface. Okay. First, let me make this as user DAO IMPL. Yeah, this one I'm making as user DAO IMPL. Then I will create one interface for that. Whatever the existing class is available, I will rename that to DAO IMPL. Then let us create one interface. Yes. User DAO interface I have created. What is the method we need? Find name by ID. That's it. So this is an abstract method. There is no body available. Now, my DAO IMPL will implement user DAO. A DAO IMPL will implement user DAO. Inside the user service, am I taking IMPL object or I am taking DAO interface? I'm taking IMPL object directly. I'm taking DAO interface. Interface reference variable can hold implementation class object. So when you are developing Java application, we are going to take list-L. Okay, what is the benefit now? What is the benefit now? You can store array list object and you can store simple list object. You can store vector object. You can store stack object also. So L is the interface variable. Okay. Whenever you take interface variable that can hold any implementation class object. Interface variables can hold any implementation class object. So that's why in my service also I'm taking interface variable. That variable can hold implementation object. Are you clear with my point? Now, for time being, I'm removing this setter and constructor. Okay, I'm writing the annotation at the variable level. So can I call it is a field injection now? Now, so I am taking the variable of the interface. For that, it is going to inject a interface object to this variable or implementation class object of the interface to this variable. IOC container will inject a interface object or IOC container will inject a implementation class object of this interface. Implementation class object of the interface. Okay, let me go here. Keep a breakpoint now. Keep a breakpoint. Right click, debug, boot application. Right click on this, run in the debug mode. Okay, started. IOC container created, getting the bean object, calling the get name method, go inside the method. DAO variable. DAO variable having which class object now? DAO object is there or DAO IMPL object is there? DAO IMPL object is available. So when you take interface reference variable, IOC container will identify implementation class of the interface and it will inject that object into the variable. Dependency injection is happening. Earlier also dependency injection happened. Now also dependency injection happened. But what is the difference? Earlier, my class is directly talking to another class. Now my class is talking to another class by using interface. Who is identifying the implementation object of the interface? IOC container is identifying the implementation class object of the interface and inject into interface reference variable. Interface reference variable can hold any implementation class object. Interface reference variable can hold any implementation class object. Are you clear with my point? Yes. Sir, how IOC container will identify? How IOC container will identify this interface implementation object. IOC container, we are performing the auto wiring, right? We are using auto wiring annotation at the variable. When you go for the auto wiring works based on for the auto wiring there are some modes available. What are the modes available? There is a mode called by name available. There is a mode called by type is available. There is a mode called constructor. There is a mode called none. Okay. Auto wiring is used to perform dependency injection. For the auto wiring, there are 4 modes available. These modes are used to identify the dependent. I'm using a variable. For the variable, it has to identify the dependent object. It has to inject the dependent object into target object. So for that, auto wiring concept internally works based on 4 modes like. What are the 4 modes available for the auto wiring? One is by name, second one is by type, third one is constructor, fourth one is none means no auto wiring. None means no auto wiring. Auto wiring will not happen. Okay. Next one, we need to consider 3 modes of the auto wiring. What are the 3 modes of the auto wiring? One is by name, another one is by type, third one is construct. What is the meaning of by name? What is the meaning of by name? By name is nothing but based on the name of the variable, we will identify the dependent object. Now, to understand it clearly, let me change this IMPL. Instead of taking 1 IMPL, I'm going to take 2 IMPLs, guys. Okay, I'm going to take 2 IMPL classes here. One is Oracle DAO IMPL. One is Oracle IMPL. Another one is MySQL IMPL. One interface can have multiple implementation classes here. I'm taking one DAO which will communicate with the Oracle database. Another DAO which will communicate with the MySQL database. Oracle DAO IMPL, MySQL DAO IMPL available. One interface is having how many implementations now? 2 implementations are available. IoT container will inject which IMPL now? Let me create. Okay. User DAO IMPL is available now. Let me make it as Oracle user DAO IMPL and let me make it as MySQL user DAO IMPL. Oracle user DAO IMPL constructor. Okay. Then next one, another one, MySQL user DAO IMPL is available. That constructor I have given. Okay. Now, so we need to understand which dependent object it is injecting to the service. How can we get that now? System.out.println, DAO dot get class dot get. What is the purpose of get class dot get name? What is the purpose of get class dot get name? To understand which DAO object it is injected. Now, so I'm taking interface variable. For that interface, how many implementations are available? Service is there. Service is talking to DAO. DAO variable available. For the DAO, there are 2 implementation classes available. Now, IoT container will inject Oracle DAO or MySQL DAO. IoT container will inject Oracle DAO IMPL or MySQL DAO IMPL. Ambiguity. Because one interface, 2 implementations available. IoT container will confuse. Okay. 2 implementation classes available for one interface. Which DAO I have to inject? That is a confusion for the IoT container. That is called ambiguity problem. That is called ambiguity problem. Let us run our application now. Go here. Application.java run as boot application. So when I run this boot application, application started or application failed? Application failed to start. Can you read the error? Why it is failing? User service is expecting 1 bit, but it is finding 2 bits here. It is expecting 1 bit, but it is identifying 2 bits here. So that's why it is failing. That's why it is failing. Now, we need to resolve this problem. We need to resolve this problem. But first of all, how the IoT container identifying the dependency? It is using, by default, it will go to the by name concept. That means, by name means based on variable name, it will identify dependent bean object. Based on the variable name, it is going to identify the dependent bean object. What is our variable name? Private user DAO is available. So it will check, is there any bean available with the name as DAO? What is our variable name here? DAO. Is there any bean available with this name to perform the dependency injection? Is there any bean available with that name? Is there any bean available with that name? No. That means, now let me go and change this. @component. For @component, I will give the name as DAO. So earlier we are giving only component. Now I want to give the ID for the bean name. I'm giving the bean name as a DAO. Okay. Now go to our application, run it. Run this application. Now application started. Which object it injected now? Oracle. So there are 2 implementations available. But why we are not getting the problem? Because for the bean I am giving the name. So whenever you perform the auto wiring, I am writing auto wiring. Whenever you perform the auto wiring, by default, auto wiring will work based on by name. What is the meaning of by name? Based on the variable name, you will identify dependent bean object. In our project, is there any bean available whose name is DAO. Yes, Oracle DAO IMPL is available, whose name is DAO. It is taking the Oracle DAO IMPL, injecting into DAO variable. So what is the meaning of by name, guys? What is the meaning of by name? Based on the name of the variable. Based on the name of the variable, IOC container will identify dependent object, will inject into target object. Okay. For example, for this bean, if there is no ID or if there is no name available, there is no name available. If there is no, if the name is available, it is good. Okay, it is going to identify the bean based on the name of the variable. So that is called by name. For example, for the bean, if the name is not available, or in this name, if there is no bean available, then IOC container will go for by type. IOC container will go for by type. By type means based on the data type of the variable, we will identify the dependent object. First preference will go to name only. What is our variable name? In this DAO. In this name, is there any bean available? No. In the bean name, in this variable name, if the bean is not available, then IOC container will go to by type guy. What is the meaning of a by type? Data type of the variable. It will check for the bean with the data type. But here, data type is a class or a data type is an interface. Earlier, data type is a class only. Directly identify the object and inject it. But now, data type is a class or a data type is an interface. Data type is a interface. When your variable data type is an interface, IOC will identify implementation classes for the interface. Are you getting my point? So, lot of things will work in the background. These are called internals of the Spring Boot or internals of the Spring Framework, fundamentals of the Spring Framework. So, auto wiring is used to perform dependency injection. When you use the auto wide annotation at the variable level, you will check with the variable name, is there any bean matching? Is there any bean matching? If it is available, inject that object. That is called by name. So, but currently, with this name, there is no bean available. You want, you can configure. For the component, if you give the name as DAO, this is called name of the bean. This is called name of the bean. Then there are two implementations, but IOC will check the implementation or IOC will check the bean name, matching. If it is matching, no problem. Directly inject the bean into target. But if you don't write the bean name, then IOC will go for by type. What is the meaning of a by type? What is the meaning of a by type, guys? IOC container will search for the dependent bean based on the data type of the variable. So data type is a class or data type is an interface. Data type is an interface. When the data type is an interface, IOC container will check for implementation classes of the interface. If you have only one implementation, no problem. Directly inject. But here, what is the problem? There are two implementations available. That's why it is failed. Are you getting my point? So it has to identify the dependent bean. First preference will give to by name. But unfortunately, in the variable name, there is no bean available. Then it will go for by type. Type is an interface. If it is an interface, object will not be available. It will search for the implementation classes. How many implementation classes are available? Two implementations. Out of these two, which one it has to inject? Confused. So that's why our application is not getting started. This is called ambiguity problem in the auto wiring. In the interview, they will ask this question. In which scenario you will get the ambiguity problem in the auto wiring and how to resolve the ambiguity problem? Are you able to understand the concept? So what is the ambiguity in the IoT container? When more than one bean is eligible for the dependency injection, then we will get the ambiguity problem. Here the problem is I want to perform the dependency injection by using auto wiring. Auto wiring is working based on by name. Based on the name of the variable, it is trying to identify the dependent object which is not a variable. Then it will go for type of the variable. Type of the variable is the interface. Interface is having two implementation classes. Which implementation object it has to inject, that is a confusion for the IoT container, that is called ambiguity problem. Are you able to follow this one? Are you clear? Now, how to resolve this ambiguity problem? To resolve this ambiguity problem, we need to give the priority for one bit, not for two bits. To give the priority for one bit, we need to represent that bean as a primary. We need to represent the bean as a primary. So when more than one bean is eligible for the auto wiring, which is the primary bean for the auto wiring. If you use @ primary, then IoT container will give the priority to that bean. Then we can resolve the problem by using primary arithmetic. Are you guys able to follow me? Yes. Now let me go and use primary at the variable DA. Okay. How to specify primary arithmetic? I'm going to use primary arithmetic. Now let me go and run this application in the debug mode. Debug as boot application. Okay. Application is getting started. Now I am getting the bean object, service object I got. Go inside that one, get name method, I'm calling. Now DAO. Check one. Which object is injected, guys? Which object is injected? Actually, it is performing by name filing or by type filing. Why not by name? Currently, IoT identifying the dependent based on by name or based on by type. By type only. Why by type? If that variable name not been available, so it will go for by type. What is the type of the variable? Interface. Then it is the interface what IoT is doing. Check for implementation of the interface. How many implementations available? Two. Can it inject two objects into single variable? No. We have to consider only one object. Which one we will consider? Primary. Which is the primary? Variable. Variable pin will be injected. If I don't write the primary, confused. Application will fail. Again, my point. So if we check for binding, not available. Go for binding. Type is the interface. When it is the interface, object will not be available. Go for IMP. How many IMP are? Two IMP. Out of the two IMP, which one is primary? Variable is primary. Then inject variable object into our target. Now think about the developer who developed that IoT content. What we are doing? We are just learning, but they develop. There is a difference. There is a difference, right? So in the real time, you need to be at the framework level. How the framework is working internally, and how to develop our own framework. At least if you don't develop your own framework, you should know how to use the framework, how the framework is working internally. If you want to get a job, you should learn the framework. You should know how the framework is working in the background. I'm able to teach the Spring because I know how the framework will work in the background. How I came to know that? Because I developed one framework in my company. So I know all these things. What is the logic can I write in the background? Lot of things. Reflection API will be used in the background in order to load the content, in order to identify implementations of the interface, and in this implementation, which implementation we need to inject, which bean is having a primary, we need to read the class by using another one Java program code. We need to read by using another Java program when you are going for the framework development. So if you understand internals of this framework, then technically you will become very, very strong. I'm very strong in the Java. Technically, I'm very strong because I know how the framework will work in the back. Again, my point. Auto wiring concept Generally, faculty will teach auto wiring in 5 minutes. Auto wiring means dependency injection. Whenever you want auto wiring, you can select auto one. But I am not leaving that. We are doing the first method on the auto wiring. How it is working in the background? What is the internals? Okay. So if you have learned the internals, your confidence levels will increase. If you learn the internals, confidence levels will be increased. Tomorrow, if somebody asks a question on the auto wiring, you can explain 10 minutes about the auto wiring. What is the auto wiring? What is by name? What is by type? When you will get the ambiguity? How to resolve that ambiguity? What is the primary? What is the qualifier? All these concepts we have to explain. And when you go for interview, don't give single line answer. Generally, when we ask what is inheritance, people will tell extending the properties from one class to another class is called inheritance. What is polymorphism? One object will behave multiple ways is polymorphism. What is auto wiring? Injecting dependent object in target object. This kind of answer will not be accepted in the interview. Single line answers, single word answers, single line answers are not accepted. When they ask a question, minimum 2 to 3 minutes, you should be able to answer. 2 to 3 minutes you need to talk about the problem. If somebody asks me, what is auto wiring in the interview? I will explain auto wiring for 3 to 4 minutes in the interview. After listening to my answer, he will not ask any question in the auto wiring. What is auto wiring? Auto wiring, if anybody asks me, if I go for the interview, if anybody asks me, what is auto wiring? I will tell like this. Auto wiring is a process to perform dependency injection in the string-based applications or Spring Boot applications. So when you use auto wiring annotation, IOC container will perform the dependency injection. That auto wiring annotation, we can use it at 3 places: sector level, constructor level, and field level. If you use at the field level, it will perform the field injection. Internally, it will use the reflection API to perform the field injection because our variables are private variable. Generally, we can't access private variable outside of the class. That's why IOC container will use the reflection API to access the private variable. If you use at the sector method level, IOC container will call the sector method to perform the dependency injection. If you use at the constructor level, IOC will call the constructor to perform the dependency injection. By default, IOC will go for the zero param constructor to create the object. If you want to use parameter the constructor, we need to use auto wiring at the constructor level. And if you have only one parameter the constructor, auto wiring is optional. And auto wiring will work based on 3 modes: by name, by type, and constructor. By default, it will work based on the by name. By name means based on the variable name, it will identify the bean object. If it is available, it will inject it. If not available, it will go for by type. By type means based on the type of the variable, it will check for the dependent. If the type is a class, it will identify the class object and will inject it. But it is not recommended to write the classes directly because classes will become tightly coupled. We are going to use interfaces to achieve the loosely coupling. So my variable data type is an interface. For the interface object will not be available, then IOC will search for implementation classes. If there is only one implementation class, no problem. If the interface is having more than one implementation, ambiguity problem. When there is an ambiguity problem, application cannot start. To resolve the ambiguity problem, we need to go for time. If I give the answer, if you ask any question on the paper, immediately they will tell. Then you will join how much package you want. So that confidence is required when you are attending the interview. So not stop within 2 to 3 minutes. Whatever we are learning from last 2 classes, I am explaining in the 3 minutes of time. That confidence is required for the interview. Then you will get the job. Get my point? So communication skills are important. Communication skills, fluent English I am speaking. I am also from Telugu medium background. I am not from IIT. I am not from LKG. I am not English medium student. Till my 10th class, I am also Telugu medium student. Once I joined in the IT company, then we learned all these things. Once after getting the job, then we learned because we work with different people. Then we need to improve that skill. Okay? Communication skills are important, subject, technical skills are important, and framework, internally how it is working, that concept also you should. Then easily you can crack the interview. Whether you are going as a fresher experience, if you know the subject, you can crack any interview. So don't say that market is not good for IT, jobs are not there for employees, openings are there. I have shown you Naukri website. How many companies are looking for people developer? People are saying that jobs are not there. If I upload my resume to the Naukri today, and tomorrow I will get a job. I'm sure. If I upload the resume today, and tomorrow I will get the job. Subject is there. Communication is there. Confidence is there. If I attend any interview, the first company I will get the job. I'm confident on that. But people today are not confident. So they don't learn the subject properly. They don't improve communication skills. And they will say that jobs are not. Jobs are there. Skilled people are not. That is the problem. If the jobs are not there, why companies will post these many jobs in the Naukri guys? Go to Naukri website where jobs you can find out. Just you type Spring Boot developers. Java Spring Boot. How many jobs are posted? 23,000 companies. I'm not talking about the job. 23,000 companies posted the jobs on the Java Spring Boot developer. How can you say the IT resident is there? The IT jobs are not there. The stories people are telling. Jobs are there, but what is missing? Skilled people are not there. Skilled people are not there. So out of this 23,000, okay, let me remove 10,000. Some institutes also will put the job. Remove 10,000. See, only 13,000 companies are there. 13,000 jobs are there. And for one job, multiple employees are required. So at least if you consider one job multiplied by 3 people, 13 multiplied by 3, 40,000 Spring Boot developers are required for the IT industry. And that is only in the Naukri website. If you go for Monster, if you go for LinkedIn, if you go for LinkedIn, so many job postings will be available. 40,000 Spring Boot developers requirement is there. As per the postings are there in the Naukri. Naukri is not my website. You got the point. So you need to learn the subject properly, then you can get the job. And remember one more important thing. Whatever you are learning in the undergrad, whatever you are doing in the IT industry, there will be some gaps, some difference will be there. Here we are learning small examples. 1 hour class, one topic, one small example will complete. Tomorrow when you go to the company, the things are not this much easy. So you need to do lot of work. You need to keep lot of efforts. And in the class, every program will execute. Faculty will execute the program. And the faculty is teaching the same course from last 4 or 5 years. Any Java faculty you take in Amin, they are teaching the same Java from 10 years. Same employee, same product, same good. Example. Definitely faculty will get the output in the class. Because whatever the Spring Boot I am teaching, from last 5 years, I am teaching the same Spring Boot, same IoT container, same. I will get the output. If I get some problem also, I will resolve the problem in my working experience. But for you, the company, every day new task will be there. Every day new challenging will be there. A lot of problems you are going to face, and you need to resolve those problems. For that, you should have the maturity. Problem solving skills are important. Self-learning. Whatever the problem you are facing, you should analyze the problem, you should resolve the problem on your own. Then only you can survive. Don't depend on someone to learn the subject. Okay? You need to become independent. Right. So we are understanding what is by name and what is by type. What is the by name? Based on the variable name, you will identify dependent bean object. If the variable name is there bean available, then problem solved. You can inject the bean object. Two beans cannot have the same. Every bean will have the unique name. With that bean name, you will identify the dependent. You will inject into the target. But if that by name, if the bean is not available, then the problem. If you go for by type, what is the meaning of the by type? What is the by type? Is going to take the type of the variable. Variable type is a class or interface. It is an interface. Object is available or not available. Then I want to take a record. We check for implementation class object. One implementation or two implementations. There are two implementations available. When there are two implementations, then what is the problem? Ambiguity problem. How to resolve the ambiguity problem? By using primary. If I write primary for both classes, again ambiguity. Primary should be there for only one. Are you clear with my point? And here, Oracle bean is injected, guys. Let us check it. Debug as boot application. Okay. I'm getting the bean object, service object I got. I'm going inside the service method, and whenever you are running the program, DAO.find name by ID. Keep your cursor on the variable. What object is injected? MySQL also available, but why Oracle injected? Because Oracle is a primary. Now, yes, I got the name. Okay, then I'm printing that name. Oracle object is injected. Suppose I will remove the primary from the Oracle. I will keep the primary in the MySQL. I will remove the primary from the Oracle. I'm using primary in the MySQL. Okay, application.java debug as boot application. Debug as boot application. Clear the console. Okay. Now, say get name. Go inside that method. Check the variable. Which variable object is injected now? MySQL is injected. So based on the data type, it is identifying the implementation. Two implementations available. Ambiguity. To resolve the ambiguity, we are using. Are you clear with my point? And there is another way also, guys. There is another way. If you don't want to use the primary, there is another way also available. What is that? For this component, I'm giving the name as MySQL. Bean name. That is called bean name. For this one, I'm giving the name as Oracle. I'm giving the name as Oracle. So every bean is having a name. Every bean is having a name. But what is the variable name? Is this name matching with the bean name? Bean name is Oracle. Bean name is MySQL. But my target class variable name DAO. By name will work or by name is not working now. Will not work. Then it will go for by name. I want to identify bean based on the name only, not based on the type. Then you can use one annotation called qualifier. There is an annotation called qualifier. For this qualifier, I will tell the bean. Qualifier is Oracle. What is the meaning of qualifier is Oracle? Based on the name, if the bean name is Oracle, then take it and inject into this variable. If I don't write the qualifier, it will check with the bean for based on this name. I don't want to check with this name. I want to check with a different name. Then I will use the annotation called qualifier. Qualifier annotation is used to identify the bean based on the name of the variable. I mean, based on the bean name, I can identify. If I don't write the qualifier, then what will happen? It will check with the variable. I want to check with the another name, not with the variable. Then go for qualifier. So, how many ways are there to resolve the ambiguity problem? Two ways are available. One is by using qualifier, another one is by using private. Okay? So, when you are using auto wiring by name, by type will be available. And the constructor. When you go for constructor also, constructor injection will happen. When you go for the constructor injection also, first it will check with the bind. Constructor parameter with the bind. If not available, constructor parameter with the data. Now you see, I'm going to remove this entity. You understand what is qualifier? What is qualifier? Identify the bean based on the name. Okay. Now let me run this. What is the qualifier I'm giving? Oracle. Now I don't have primary. I'm not using primary. I'm using qualifier. Application.java run as boot application. Now you check it. Which object is injected? Variable. Because qualifier B is a variable B. Now I don't want to go for field injection now. I want to go for constructor injection. How to write the constructor? Class name should be same as constructor name. No parameter. Constructor will have the argument user DAO. This dot DAO is equal to. Okay. Suppose if I give this as variable, if I give constructor parameter as a variable, this dot DAO is equal to variable. What is the meaning of that? Variable name can be anything, right? What is the purpose of this one? Check it. Run as boot application. Which object is injected now? Why variable object injected now? Constructor parameter is matching with the. So this is auto wiring with the constructor. So when you write the constructor, you will check the name of the parameter. Constructor parameter name. In that name you will identify the dependent. Yes, it is available. For example, if I give this as a DAO, that means constructor mode also internally will use by name and by type mode. By name means based on the name of the variable, identify the dependent. By type means based on the type of the variable, identify the dependent. When you go for by type, there is a chance of getting the ambiguity problem. When you go for by type, there is a chance of getting ambiguity problem. How we can resolve that ambiguity problem? Either use the qualifier with the field name or use the primary end. So this is called auto wiring into both. Auto wiring with the field, auto wiring with the constructor, auto wiring with the setter, auto wiring with by name, auto wiring with by type, auto wiring with the constructor. And we also discussed about primary annotation and qualifier. What is the purpose of the primary? To resolve ambiguity problem with the by type technology. Is this clear? Any questions, anyone? No. No, you can't do that. Whenever you are writing iterate component, you can assign the ID B name like this one. Yeah, same bro. Same. You can write a constructor with multiple parameters also. You can take like this. I will show you in the next example one target with multiple different. Yeah. At the rate, wherever you use auto wiring, there you can use the qualifier. You can use at the field level, setter method level, constructor level also. Auto wiring you can read 3 places, right? Wherever you are writing the auto wiring, there you can write the qualifier also. Any other questions, anyone? No? Good guys. Thank you. I'm stopping now. We'll meet on Monday. Online people.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of questions, sir. Kausal this side. So, in our previous lectures, classes, we learned that okay, if we have both kind of injections, then like constructor and setter, then setter will override the constructor injection. How about the field injections, sir? If we have all these 3 kind of injections, then which will be the final one to be followed?
Yeah, Kaushal, in the Monday session, I will show you that.
All right, sir. That's okay. Another question is, sir, this what is recommended in order to mark my classes as a component? I should go for the specific stereotype like service classes, I should annotate with @service and DO as @repository or @component is recommended.
Yes, sir. I will explain you that concept, sir. I will tell you that.
Okay,
Sir,
sir.
if there are multiple implementations by using this primary or even this by name, one way or the other, are we not actually tightly coupling, sir, by doing this?
Can you come again, sir?
No. If we have multiple implementations and if the variable name is implementation class variable, and while choosing the class, right, we either because of removing the ambiguity, we are using either primary
Or
or
we can use the qualifier, sir.
yeah, qualifier. But by doing so, also, are we not actually tightly coupling?
No, sir. Interface is there, na?
Okay.
Sir, what if modify interface like a particular interface method, if I add a new parameters, so that time also it is affecting, right?
Whenever they are changing the interface, right, they need to take care of the implementation classes also.
Yeah, but we are referring interface only, right?
So yes, sir. We are referring interface only when somebody is modifying a interface. First, he need to check what are the implementations available. He will understand which classes are going to be affected directly.
Okay. And if we choose other than primary, then what we need to do, sir? Again, we need to change the other class as primary.
Yes, sir. We need to change that primary to other class.
Sir, if we
is there any override can be done from any other place other than affecting the module?
No, sir. You can't do that.
Okay, got you.
Sir, one doubt. Sir, we saw today like MySQL and Oracle implementation. Suppose we have 4 implementation, like another 2 database implementation are there. In that case, which is the like a convenient way to handle?
If you have 4 or if you have 10 also, you need to consider only one bean at a time.
Okay, yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
So better way we should go with which, sir? Either at primary or that name.
Qualifier you can use, or anything is fine, sir. That's not a big deal. If your beans are having the name, you can go for qualifier. If your beans does not have the name, then you can go for prime. Anything is fine.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, if the interviewer asks that, okay, as you are telling that the Spring Beans are injected based on the reflection API. So can you explain about reflection API? So we can say like we'll load the class runtime by using class.forName. Yeah, right. It will be loaded into the memory, and then we'll get the dependent declared variables as you have shown yesterday. So we can explain in that way, sir.
Yes, sir. You can do that.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have one clarification. So here,
Tell me.
sir, by name, by type, constructor, and one more is the auto detector. This auto detector is really there or is deprecated?
Deprecated, sir. It's not working.
Okay. And one more thing. So you are saying like DAO MPL, right? So according to Spring Data JPA, I think this flow, I think some shortcut way that